Welcome to In a Moment with Unoma Allen of the Soup Cafe. Right now we're at the beautiful Palm Court, a place where you can dine if you're a couple, a family, or if you just want to get away from the hustle and bustle of Bastille. Today we speak of that four-letter word, love. One that you must give to yourself first before you can give to anyone else. There are many categories of love. What are they? Well, join myself and three wonderful guests as we speak to the topic of love. Stay tuned. Mother language, I am Unoma. Today we're going to talk about that four-letter word. Yes, some consider it a bad word, some consider it a good word, and that's love. Love is in the air as we are, I think Valentine's Day is somewhere close. So we have a few individuals with us here on In the Moment with Unoma to speak on the topic of love. But first, let's introduce our guests. Gentlemen, do you mind if we start with the lady?
Who are you? I am Carla Astafan. I guess everybody knows my name in this country.
That's true. You're right up there with the Prime Minister.
I'm known as porter, tour guide, realtor, mother, friend, girlfriend, whatever. You know, I've been mothering for 40 plus years, so yeah, a lot of love I had to give.
You have a lot of experience. I'm hoping to bring that out. And your neighbor string is married where?
In Dominica. But I'm Kititian, you know. I left Dominica at a very young age. I'm not going to say the year, and so I'm not going to date myself, but yeah.
So welcome to our country, and we're so happy to have you. Really do. I admire your involvement. You must stay in the shadows. You come through and say, hey, I'm here. What can I do?
Yes.
And I love that about you.
Yeah.
Sir.
I'm from St. Kitts. I'm an artist, and I have a clothing line which is Freako, and I also provide the service for architectural design as well, and I also have a show that I co-host with my cousin Alexander.
Now, when you say Freako, the first thing comes to my mind is that shaved ice treat.
Yeah.
You know, you pour the sweet juice over it,
Yeah.
and you go down the road, no matter what age you are. That's something that every Kititian division could enjoy. The name for your clothing line, where did it come from? Is it that?
It came from that, and exactly what you said. It reminds you of when you were young, so your eyes going to smell to you wherever you are. So the brand is actually supposed to bring that feeling, that vibe back, you know?
Good idea. So where do you see your brand in 10 years?
In 10 years, you know, we hope that Freako will be the Nike of the Caribbean, because it specifies in our sport in the time. Yeah, so
when you're ready to sample, call me. I love you to all. But that's excellent, sir. I wish you the best with that.
thank you.
Yes, sir. And the final gentleman?
My name is Alonzo Alexander, and I manage one of the largest agencies on the island. Like Atiba alluded to, we host a weekly radio program that discusses issues from a Caribbean perspective. Issues of masculinity predominantly. So I'm hyper interested in masculinity and what that means as an abstraction.
Look, that topic we should come back and discuss, because Caribbean masculinity, sometimes it can be so extreme. You know, as it approaches, as it interacts with other individuals in our society.
Right.
You know, where did that come from? Is it going to change? Is it open to change?
Right.
Or is it perfect the way it is?
Things don't change.
Okay, that possibly could be a next topic for In the Moment with Unoma. So let's talk about love. Each of you, what does love mean? I'm going to start with you.
Well, for me, I feel love is a very personal concept, and it's very abstract as well, because I personally feel you can't truly love someone or something unless you understand your love yourself. So I feel love starts internally first and radiates outward.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That sounds like you could be a philosopher. All right. Love starts inside and radiates outwards.
Right.
I'm going to come back to that. And what is the definition of love for you, Franco?
Listen to that.
Yes, man, you could up it. You could up that. Just be true to you. Have you ever been in love?
You know, I'm in love right now.
Oh, so it's easy for you to define. What is love?
Mm. Love is a mixture of things for me, right? So I never really thought about it because it's not something that you put in words for me.
Okay,
right?
so
It's something that you feel, something that you do.
Brilliant.
Right? So it's very difficult for me to find the words to put around it. And I feel for me, if I can define it, sometimes it feels as though like a little bit enchantment of it. Right? Because you can figure out the essences. But in terms of seeing love, I could see like love like being like a print. And being a print that could it's like diagrams and stuff like that. But when it comes to love for somebody else, it's a little different.
Very good point. Thank you very much for raising that. That's another thing we'll come back to. The different types of love. Because once people think about Valentine, they think about the romantic love. But there's so much levels of love out there, and we'll touch on them in a bit. But Carla, what does love mean for you? And have you ever been in love?
Okay, I'm going to say love is that wonderful feeling that you feel. That's one aspect that's what popped into my mind as you asked the question. That wonderful feeling that you feel, and it could be that feeling that you have between a mother and child, your friend, someone you just meet on the street, and you feel that, or that guide or partner that you're attracted to. It's all that feeling that you get, because when you don't feel love, the opposite of it is a sad feeling, a bad feeling, and you can feel that between a parent and a child. You can feel that between friends. You can feel that in relationships. So I like to think about love as being that wonderful, feel-good feeling that you feel in that space that you are in with this other person.
Yes.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be just a human being. It could be, you could have love just sitting in nature.
Right.
Couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And you know me, I love the sea. I mean,
Yes.
I love the river. I love walking in nature. I love, so that wonderful feeling.
That is it.
love.
So it doesn't have to be human to human.
Right. It can be, people love their dogs, their cats,
Very true.
all of those things. So, as I said, for me, it is that. And I think there's a song that says that, right? Love is that wonderful feeling. I think somewhere it must be written already.
Are you feeling the feeling? Yes. I even think there's a calypso. Is it Shadow? Are you feeling the feeling? I don't know if you spoke about love. I can't recall. But yes, that's a wonderful way to describe love. So when it comes to Valentine, let's focus on the type of love that people automatically think of and are automatically trying to secure when it comes to Valentine. What type of love do you feel people are focusing on at that point in our year? The number one.
Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like Valentine's is very commercialized.
Yes.
But I also feel like it focuses on not so much the intimacy of love, but the erotic components. So, and if we were to look at it from the perspective of a love language, it's the giving of gifts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the gifts are a representation of how you feel. So I feel this way about you, and I grant you this gift. and this gift is a reflection of how I feel. But there's also the intimacy that's tied in with Valentine's, and it's projected in the media that there should be that human connection. So you exist within that space. But I feel if we were to look at Valentine's from a human perspective, not necessarily the erotic components, it should be a time for interaction. It should be a time where you get to know that person just a little bit deeper. We carve time out to spend time with the person that you are in love with, whoever that may be. So I feel like Valentine's could be represented in that way. I personally haven't necessarily ever been overly excited by Valentine's, to be honest.
Typical Caribbean.
Yeah, I haven't been overly excited by Valentine's, but I do understand it.
Why do you think it is the case, though, in the Caribbean that we might have been too overly
Well,
into
I think
to Valentine?
It's imported. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
imported, and like he said, it's commercial, and a lot ways. I mean, I can recall if a person gives me like there's so many expectations tied to Valentine's. For guys, it's very difficult.
Yes.
I mean, what you give on Valentine's could make or break a relationship. Seriously. I mean, you have to be so careful. So, you know, someone giving a little teddy bear or cup. I think somebody gave me a cup one time. I was really not amused. Or some little teddy. I hate teddy bears. You know, I personally do not care for all of those things. I remember what really floated my boat one time was a guy I was dating at the time blindfolding me and driving the vehicle and taking me to the beach. I'm trying to figure out, I'm just like, okay, am I going to be you know, and we are driving and I'm figuring out the streets as we go in my head. And we get to the beach and before he could do the blindfold, laid out a nice picnic with wine, balloon, everything under some coconut tree. And by the time I opened my eyes, it was this, and it was so wonderful. I think, you know, that to me got me than just coming to me with some, you know. So I think if Caribbean people can put more thought into it, you know, there's, you know, what can we do, like he's saying, what intimate thing that we can do to get together and spend that time, then, you know, it's much better.
I love that. So you go beyond the standard chocolates, wine. So we're telling you to be creative on that day, whether this year or the next year or 10 years from now. That is what Valentine needs. And when you speak about Valentine and the romantic side of Valentine, we're thinking of, as you rightfully said, that category of love, which is the physical interaction. And that's just one category of love between a couple. But the thing is, there are other aspects to a couple to keep them together. And what else is needed beyond the physical interaction that we were made for?
Quality time. I mean, he touched on that as well, which is quality time is what we need more of, because everybody gets love in different ways. Some from gifts, some from quality time, right? Some from touch. But quality time is something that we should really use, because time is the only thing that we cannot get back. And you spend time with people, you know, you get to know them on a deeper level. You know, it builds the love. And to some degree too, if you're in a long relationship, you also have to find creative ways to keep your partner seduced.
Oh yes,
you know?
yes, yeah, I hear you.
Because you could easily lose the love, you could lose the touch, you could lose all these things, but you have to find ways to seduce them.
And not just on Valentine's.
And that's on Valentine's Day.
It has to be throughout.
I think the people who have gotten it, those relationships that really have stood the test of time, are those, you know, couples, the wife, the husband, they put some time into Valentine's, into Christmas, into birthdays. You know, they make those times more special. understand that it is important. I mean, unless if at the offset they said, well, we're not doing any of the holidays. But if you know that your wife expects a certain, you know,
Response to her birthday.
yeah, to her birthday, to Valentine's, then you're going to Christmas, then you're going to put in that extra work, you know, and so people have to come to understanding each other and really, you know, I don't want to say too many, you know.
It's fine.
You
Just
get
flow.
it, you get it, you know. So if you understand each other, then you work in unity. You work like it's like music. It's like, you know, you understand. It's a dance, precisely.
Right, and I feel like a big component of that understanding that Carla alluded to is communication. Because couples don't necessarily learn to communicate. Oftentimes we operate from a place of expectation. So you should know this, but I don't necessarily know unless you communicate it. So we need to get better at communication, because I feel like communication is the language of love. No pun intended.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and you can make mistakes too, because I remember early on in my relationship, I thought that giving things, in essence, or providing, was a signal of love. But I found out it was quality time, that she needed more time than anything else.
Do you think this relates to all women, or is it just a specific, you know, their personality or contour of the person?
That's specific.
Alonso referred to that, the love languages. People have to understand what you have to understand. In communicating, you will understand what makes me tick.
Gotcha.
Okay? So for me, I'm not a person who really, I like gifts. I'm not saying it may be down there on my list of love languages, but doing things for me, I mean, really gets my...
So acts of service.
Yeah, service. You know, so a partner who can do the things that I need to get done will definitely, you know...
Balances you.
Yeah, it balances me out, because I like getting stuff done. I want to get stuff done, and if you're going to give me grief, then you know, if you can't do stuff for me, yeah.
So no, my mind thinks, well, suppose the person isn't naturally a communicator. They're quiet, they're reserved, but they show their love in a different way. But communication is important to you. How does that relationship go? Should a person come out of who they are
Well, I feel like that's...
to meet the person halfway?
I feel like that's an issue of compatibility as well. Because I do feel like persons can be incompatible. So oftentimes what I've seen is there might be that physical attraction.
One,
Right? There might be that
Excellent.
physical attraction.
important.
So I can meet you, male to female or whatever the relationship dynamic is. We can meet. There can be that initial attraction because physically I like the way you look. But once you get into a relationship, it then becomes that process of maintenance. How do I maintain the attraction? And observing you, Unoma is very beautiful. I love to see Unoma,
Thank
and
you.
I've fallen in love.
Yes.
How do I maintain that?
Yes.
So if Unoma is loud and aggressive, but that doesn't necessarily gel with my spirit because I'm a very sensitive person in the relationship. So compatibility is also a very big thing in relationships.
I love that. But what's important for me, in general, as a human being, is stepping out of your comfort zone because it gives growth. And you see, you get exposed to a life that, wow, if you never gotten exposed to it, you would have reduced your happiness or your contentment in, if that's a word, you could reduce your happiness in life. So if you're not an openly expressive person, but if you try to be, it might be something that completely helps to grow your relationship and helps to solidify the bond between two people. So are you thinking that, look, if I'm quiet or if I'm not a communicator, I should stay this way?
Well,
No. Let me say something. Even if you are quiet, you would have had an attraction to someone. The person is attracted to you. You all must talk. You must communicate. You're not going to just be sitting there numb. Now you're going to have questions. And a lot of times what we don't do, because I was telling you earlier, what we don't do is that we don't ask the hard questions. we don't sit down and say, what do you like? What you don't like? What, what, all of those things. Ask those questions. Do you want to just hook up? Do you just want to, are you looking for something long term?
Yes.
So once you talk about those things, when you're on a date, that is what you do. You want to find out what happened in your last relationship. My sister just threw that word. Why are you single? What happened in your last relationship? Sometimes you don't want to talk about the past. But in talking about the past, you can actually find out, well, this is something I don't want going forward. So you don't want someone who is unemployed, for instance. Okay, or all of those things.
Right. So if those are important.
Yeah, if those things are important, so you have to find out. You need to know what your boundaries are, and those are things that you will discuss during the dating period.
During the courting period.
Yeah.
Excellent. Atiba, do individuals nowadays court 20s to 30s? I know, Carla, as you said it, you believe in courting.
Yeah.
Do people from the 20s to say 38, 35 know what courting is? Is it done?
Not in the Caribbean. We talked about this too. Not from the Caribbean side of things. They don't really get into dating and courting.
So what happens? What's like a relationship progression? I like you.
I like you too.
Okay, let's go. Okay, you tell me you like me. Right, so I'm 20, you're 21.
Yeah.
Or I'm 18, you're 21. You come up to me in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah.
Okay, you like me.
Yeah, I like you too.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's next? How do they do it nowadays?
We text.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this is on the phone. This ain't even Facebook. This ain't even Facebook. Okay.
I need
Sorry.
your Instagram handle.
Yes.
And I send you a DM. So
Precisely.
what's happening now is the
You
youth
slide
have,
into the DMs.
right, they have evolved within the information age.
Okay,
And
so
they're in the social media space.
Right.
So that's where all of the interactions happen. When we were young, because I was born in the 80s, Steve was born in the 80s, and you ladies would appreciate when I was into you, I would come by your house. I would stand on your landing.
you're
till
giving
10
me
at night.
goosebumps,
Right.
man.
I would catch a bus and come check for you.
Yeah, right.
I will call you and I'll get past your mom first to get you on the phone and the house phone and landline.
Yes, because she's your parents answering.
Yep,
And who is
You have to
speaking?
explain yourself.
Yes, hello, my name is Atiba. I'd like to speak to you. So it's not direct.
That's like,
Right.
No, the parents have no clue
Yeah.
that you're messaging
The way
each
how
other.
I saw you, so there was a delayed gratification in
yes.
that courtship. Because I like to see Unoma, and I'm thinking about Unoma all the time. Right now, I can pull up your Instagram handle and see you
And we see you.
constantly. But before then, I would only get to see you if I catch a bus and come look for you, or if we go to the movies. So there was that motivation for me to constantly invite you out, or to put myself in positions to be wherever you are.
And then it progressed.
Right.
Because conversation would increase.
Right.
And you're seeing each other, and after a while, after the interaction, human to human talking, then you know if you have a connection.
Right.
Can you connect via WhatsApp
Yes, you can.
or social media?
Yes, you can.
But that's
Yes,
just
you
one
can.
level of. So,
Yes, because you build. Remember, look at all these relationships that happen when we do. I mean, I understand there's Tinder. I need to go on Tinder, by the way. Let me just throw that out there. I hear there's Tinder in the Caribbean,
dear.
so then we can do Tinder here. But anyway, So you do. People go on Tinder and they talk or whatever, Match.com and so on.
Okay.
You build feelings through this
Virtual space.
virtual space. You can get hurt in the virtual space. There's all of that happens within that space. Before you even meet, you don't even have to meet. Okay? Remember, you can exchange, images,
You can
all of
sex
those.
testing all that kind of things, right?
settings is
Send
allowed.
pictures of your private pads.
So
and-
Yeah.
and
So
really?
the relationships can go all sorts of ways.
So it's a lot more like fast-paced now compared to back in the day. And even if you listen to the music now, the music has changed, has evolved to match that.
So how much people getting married in this day and age now? What quality
Those-
relationships are coming out of today's type of courting?
Those who are taking the time to probably do the old way.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
They say in relationships that you must spend time to get to know the person. Don't speed it up, spend time. Because one of the key points of a relationship lasting is something they call pragma, which means you're not in love now. You've moved beyond that. You're standing in love. So when hard times hit,
you're able to withstand.
you're there together. How do you build that unbreakable bond? You have a child and the child is born, let's say Down syndrome. You have a child and the child, there are challenges, you lost your job. I have to be the one earning money to send our children to school, to buy groceries. What needs to happen to get to that stage now where you're not going to crumble? I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm going to stand with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, from what I have seen, from what I have seen, and I'm looking at two relationships that I know of, where one couple who knew each other from their teen years, by the time they went through school and he finished his schooling, at the high level of his profession, before they started to have children, and when they did, they got a multiple birth pregnancy, and they also micropremies, you call it. Okay, so imagine them having to go through that struggle of children, multiple children born at 20-something weeks. So it is that journey of what they had from teen years, working through, going to school, him getting his degrees and whatever to become what he is now, could have them survive. Another couple who spent about 5 years together, a similar thing, although they had just one child. So, when you have to deal with that, you have that backing that we know each other, we can do this. And because it takes a lot for you to be able to stand together, to go through senior, holding, so to survive that, I think, and I look at them now, like one couple, their children are in their teens now, and I see they're so, they move with such, like a dance. Their children are growing, and it's beautiful, so these are the people, these sorts of people have been able to achieve that word.
Pragma.
That
crucial
pragma, right? Yeah. So it is very crucial.
How do you,
unlike me, of course.
but how do you stand the test of time? Infidelity, financial challenges, children challenges, health challenges.
What I've come to, for me personally, to understand is consistency. So I appreciate consistency, and I think that's when acts of service kind of comes into play for me. Like, say we have an argument, me and you have an argument, you and I have an argument, but I normally go to the grocery and get these things and this then. If I still go and get these things for you, even though we're not speaking presently in the home, and I'm still doing the things that needs to keep the home moving forward, or you might say, Tiba, you're hungry, even though we're not speaking, right? And I tell you no still.
Yes.
And you still, there's something there for you if you need. So just that consistency and just being there, acts of service, to me personally, that means a lot to me.
Acts of service, you remember that. So even if you have a difficulty, even if you have a challenge, still be compassionate towards your significant other. Still show care, because anger doesn't last forever. Discord between two doesn't last forever. And I think also it moves beyond love. I think you have to mentally say, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
You got to show up. If you don't show up, you don't get paid, right?
Yeah, yes, you have to make that commitment mentally in order to ensure that you go through the challenges, you're there. So look, remember, in a relationship, yes, there's the physical attraction, there's love, there's touch, there's hug, there's sex as well, but there's also your ability to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And that's where relationship lasts. But there's another aspect to a romantic love, and it is said that individuals who are, into their 70s, 60s, 80s, this is what you always must maintain. And it is present when you're 18 or you're a teenager or in your 20s, and that is the whole idea of having fun in your relationship, flirting with each other, playing jacks, let's go hula hoop or something like that. Fun things people associate that things with teenagers, early 20s. I'm not doing that in my 30s or my 40s or my 50s. But that's childish.
Does it mean that you and I are both single right now? It doesn't mean that you're not going to do all of those things. Are you going to wait till you're in your 70s?
Exactly.
The same thing happens. It happens every time whenever you meet someone new. That is what, is going to be. That you have that teenage feeling again.
You have to.
And before you move beyond into the other section, the other part and the other part, then you have to feel all of those childlike feelings.
But the thing is,
wonderful
it's
feeling.
not just in the honeymoon phase. You must have what they call lunas 10 years into the relationship, 20 years into the relationship. Like at 55, honey, let's go skinny dipping. Like what? But you still must be open, to think outside the box and have fun. And that's what they say is important to maintain a romantic relationship.
It's really important to be childlike and not childish,
Always.
Childlike.
Always. It's always important to keep the child within you because you don't match the beat of everybody else's drum. You do what you want to do. You don't think anything is impossible. As a child, anything is possible. But as adults, we cut that aspect off from ourselves. They always say to keep the child alive keeps you youthful.
Well,
It affects
the way how
age.
I see it as well is, so if you look at it from the perspective of an analogy, anything that is rigid easily breaks. It's the same thing with a relationship. If you're too rigid, if you're too stuck, and I had a personal experience where as an individual, I'm very stoic, I'm very pragmatic. I like to calculate, right? And within that being, it made me very stiff. So certain things just didn't make sense to me. So all of these little TikTok videos with people dancing and doing goofy things, or there was this crate challenge that they had recently. I couldn't sit and watch those videos. But I realized in my personal relationship, those things were amusing. And because I couldn't sit and watch those videos and truly exist within that space just for a brief period of time, I lost that engagement. And when I tried to do it, it created a memory. It's like
perfect.
That's interesting.
And that's what friendships, family, mother and daughter, parents, and the romantic love. That's what they like. When they could sit back at 60 or at 30. Remember when we did this 5 years ago?
And I believe love essentially is a spectrum, though, because I feel like all of those different aspects of love exist within that very same spectrum. So they're not individual, even though we might look at them as individual aspects. So the romantic love, I don't think it's necessarily separate from the playful love.
No, it's absolutely important.
Right. I think it's a place on the spectrum, and you can float delightfully between each aspect.
And that's what the experts say
Right.
would be necessary to maintain the romantic relationship. But is it only romantic relationships we can express love? No. There is parent to child. And all of you are parents. I am not. So this is going to be interesting. So there's love between a parent and a child. But isn't it challenging?
I'll tell you, in my experience, we as a people in the Caribbean, you guys might know, we've had a problem with the love, how we view love, how love is expressed in the Caribbean between parents and children. So it has been tough. I mean, when babies are born, yes, we're all in love and so on. But as our children grow, as they give us trouble, as things happen, the challenges come. As a child myself, I look back and I would have wondered at times, did my mother love me? Of course she did. But it took me becoming an adult to reflect on her every morning combing all of her daughter's hair, making sure our hair was washed every weekend. All of those things that Caribbean parents do, making us look nice. We sit and pray, getting you ready to go to church. You have to, yes, they raise their voice, yes, they have their frustrations. But at the end of the day, we show love in so many ways, right? And this is what we have to look. We tend to now look at television and we see, like I tell my children, I've said it to them, I'm not going to lie. You know, you all see the television love, right? And you think that is how we're supposed to. I'm not going to put you in the corner, it's wham, bam, whatever, you know, we pick up something, whatever. You want to get away from that because they're seeing how the Americans do it. They're seeing, especially Caucasian, not even the black Americans, but the Caucasian way of showing love. And they think that is what it is. And so when they're seeing how you treat them, then they have a problem with it. So they have to understand what we do. Again, you know, how we show love is totally different. But we're trying, I think we're trying, and I think I have, in my personal experience, I've mothered for 41 years, you know, from the first child to the last. And so I think of all the time that I've had to show, you know, I think I love all my children equally. Some may feel less so, like this one, oh, you love this one more than this one, or this and so on, or you only care about that. No, I think we just express love, you know, for each child differently. Yeah.
So one of the things you touched on with your mom is sacrificing.
Yeah.
Atiba, as a parent, do you consider this a must-do in showing love to your child?
Yeah, sacrificing definitely something you must show towards your child because they're going to remember that. Because they're going to, if you don't sacrifice for them, they're going to always question if what happened, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't, you know, I'm not worth it. And then that could put them in a position, like a mental position for life. You know what I mean? That they're always looking for validation.
Which can then affect the relationship that
Yeah, because as soon as they don't feel validated, they might say, you know, this person doesn't love me, they're going to go to somewhere else. Right? And it just leads to, you know, multiple
relationships. How do you love a child through difficulties, doing the wrong thing? You know, I told you not to go out with that guy, and you're still hanging around him. You're not performing.
Yourself.
You're performing badly in school, and you know they give you a back chat, or you know just the natural challenges in being a parent. Don't you think like, my God, I can't do this?
You mentioned the thing about Caribbean parenting and stuff like that. I think that sometimes Caribbean parents, from my experience and from seeing, you know, alone, is almost as if like they own the child instead of guiding the child.
Yeah.
So that type of level of control, that you can't get love unless I could control you. Right?
And I think Caribbean parents also forget their own youth. So this is something that I think about a lot in my parenting. I see myself in my children. I know I was troublesome. I know I used to get into a lot of trouble. I know I used to talk a lot in class. I know I gave my mother a lot of trouble. So I keep that in my head. Like, they are not doing anything different from what I was doing. So I tell them, you all are not, everything I see them doing, I know I have already done. I could preempt what they're going to do. You understand? Each and every one of them. You understand? I could see myself in them. So consciously, yes, even if I will give them, I will go on a bit, I keep remembering, this isn't much different from what I did. Okay? So you want to guide them, but what I said, I already know where the potholes are. So you want to guide them in a way that they don't drop in the potholes.
So what if they do though?
Then you're just there to, you know, help them with those bruises that they will get. You know, because that's at the end of the day, I had to find a way to deal with those falls that I took. But you don't want them to fall. You're hoping they don't fall as hard as you did. You know, you've already been through it. So, like I said, it's guidance.
And when a push comes to shove too, sometimes you have to just let them figure it out. I've seen this video on Instagram which I shared in my stories recently with a brother and sister, and they was fighting, they were slapping each other and getting upset, right? But at in the last minute of the last second of the story, the brother just rubbed her face gently, and she rubbed back his face gently, and then they hugged, they embraced. So sometimes you have to give them a chance, like as kids, to kind of figure it out, no matter the age, right? Because, you know, there's a mom and a dad, 23 chromosomes each, right? So even though sometimes a parent, you might see parts of you in them, and you see like where they might be headed, there's also that maybe, you know, possibility that something might switch them into, you know. So there's a bit of trying to understand and give guidance rather than control.
So that's love within itself. That you're willing to
let go.
Let go, yes.
Yeah, you gotta let
And
go.
let them find their ways. So far, when it comes to love with a parent to a child, you must sacrifice. You know, whether it's time, spending less time with your own friends, spending more time with them, guiding them as opposed to controlling them. They speak of, they call philia, which is engaging in conversations with your child. They say, be trustworthy with them. That helps to solidify a good parental-child relationship. Like, you know, you're saying you have to be home by 10. You know, I'm not going to call you.
But you know, some parents also drop the ball, and there will be some parents consistently disappoint the children. So there's like different, you know, consistencies. Like, you know, like studies that I read, they was talking about like daughters being disappointed by their fathers, right? And in their relationships, it affects the relationship moving forward because, you know, they're always gonna feel like they're gonna get disappointed.
So they look for it.
But they might be disappointed.
situations.
Or they create situations,
To get-
right?
yeah.
Or they even get scared of getting close because they feel like they're gonna get disappointed by a male. Right? So then you got to, you know, but it takes a lot of reading and understanding because we don't necessarily get those teachings from our parents like in this time, and maybe it's because of, you know, the history of
Yes.
black people,
Yes.
you know, and our cultures and stuff like that. So we just kind of gain to know each other in a mental space because we didn't have that before. It was always like work and provide
Yes.
versus quality time.
Correct. And having conversations.
And
You know,
having
you just think, I'm a parent, we have a roof, you have food in your stomach, I send in your school.
Yeah.
That's basically
That's
it.
That's it.
But
I don't want to beat you because I love you.
do you believe in the rod, Alexander?
Yes.
You think that's an expression of love?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I feel like discipline is a form of love. I think where it becomes problematic is when a parent loses control. So oftentimes parents beat not because they're trying to teach a lesson, but because they're frustrated.
And they want to hurt the child.
Right. And they are two different things.
So you have to
And
check yourself.
it's very easy as a parent for you to impose your ideals onto a child who is still learning.
Yes.
So what I've seen is a child might be, I'll create a scenario. A child is in a supermarket and they want something and they start misbehaving and they throw down themselves on the floor, right? They start kicking up. The mom might beat that child. When she gets back to the car, the child has already forgotten the incident and is in that loving space again.
Yes.
Mommy and wants to talk.
Yes.
The child wants that engagement. But as a mother or as a father, I'm frustrated. You've embarrassed me in this store. How dare you? So I'm shouting and go, sit down. There's no love within that space. So I think self-control as a parent is important. We need to realize that children don't see the world the same way we do. We view the world through the lens of experience. We've fallen several times and gotten back up and understood the social dynamics. As a child, even at 14, you might feel like a child should know. 14-year-old doesn't know. They're still trying to figure it out and they have hormones and they have all of these different things. So I feel like as parents, you do beat or you do punish. It doesn't necessarily have to be beating.
Right.
But you do punish, but it should be from a place of love. I feel you can beat from a place of love because
Okay.
I want to teach you a lesson.
It's true, because you're trying to guide them.
Right,
You
I'm
don't
trying
want
to
them
guide you.
to go along
And-
the wrong path.
Especially if you're looking at it from the male-to-male dynamic, where a father and a son. As a father, I think it's important for us to discipline our sons as a form of love. Because if I don't discipline you at home and teach you the way that you need to interact with the world, someone else is going to do it. And they might do it with a gun.
Yes.
Or the police might do it with imprisonment.
Fantastic.
Right? So, and I do it because I love you. I don't do it because I want to be hard.
That's true. Just a quick last human interaction. Friendship. The love that we show or we gain from a friendship. How do we build that bond between friends? How does that happen? Can you get your heart broken in a friendship?
Yes,
I
yes,
believe
of
so.
course. You click, you become good friends, people. But like you said earlier, if you have a happened and so on. One of us may have messed up or something like that.
I'll just go around quickly. What is an absolute one thing, action, act that must be maintained in a good friendship? What one thing you look for to say, okay, I'm going to try and be a friend with this person? One thing, each of you.
Well, communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Communication.
And closeness.
Integrity. Integrity. That's important for me to see.
In building a friendship with someone. For you?
For me, it's reciprocity. I feel like if I'm a particular type of way with you, in terms of if I'm willing to serve you as a friend, so you can call me at 1 in the morning to get up and come because you got a puncture.
Yes.
I should be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you demonstrate that you're not willing,
All of these.
right, then that's
And
a deal breaker for me.
I've heard of friendships that are not equal like that.
Right.
Or I lend her money whenever she needs, but when I no want the help, there's an excuse. Girl, no, I gotta pay my bills or things like that. So it's important, as you say, reciprocity is important in a friendship. For me, if I had to say trustworthy, you have to be someone who, even if our friendship ends, what we discussed, what you know about me, my weaknesses, my insecurities, it stays there. Not because we're not friends anymore, that means, look, I could let everybody know your business. But yes, to be compatible, have the same views on life, and to trust. Ladies and gentlemen, that's In a Moment with Unoma, or Unoma, depending on the language you speak. It has been a wonderful chat here on the topic of that 4-letter word.
Love.
Love.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Alexander. Fueko, wish you all the best. I look forward to the sneakers. And Carla, thank you so much
Thank you.
for giving your experience. And that's it. See you next time.